So, you came here to learn Docker. Maybe you've heard the word containerization thrown around and you want to finally understand what it actually means. Maybe your team keeps talking about Docker and you're like quietly nodding, hoping no one asks any questions. Or maybe you are already an IT professional and you are just tired of this classic nightmare. It works on my machine. Well, it doesn't work on mine. If any of that sounds familiar, you are in the right place. In the next few minutes, you will understand what Docker actually is, and you will run your very first container. So let's do this. Hi everyone, my name is Jozwicki and welcome to the Docker Deep Dive. In this episode, I'm going to show you what Docker actually is, the difference between an image and a container, and how to run a real web server using just one command. But wait a minute, if you're thinking like, I don't code, I don't know what Docker is, I don't know any of that, then am I over in my head? No, you're not. This video is completely beginner friendly, so you don't have to worry about anything. And on top of that, it serves as a foundation for the entire Docker series, so stay with me, you'll be fine. So, let me paint you a picture. You're working on a project. On your machine, everything works perfectly. You send it to a teammate, and suddenly errors, missing libraries, wrong Python version, different Node version. Something somewhere is always off. You spent hours debugging that shit, and you finally realize you could have done it better. And that right there is the exact problem Docker is trying to solve. Because you see, Docker lets you package everything your application needs, the libraries, the configurations, the code, everything, into a one single unit called container. And that container runs exactly the same way everywhere. Your laptop, your teammate's machine, a server in the cloud. Same behavior every single time. No surprises. To really understand this, imagine a shipping port. Before containers existed, cargo was a complete chaos. Wooden crates, barrels, different bags, everything had a different shape, different size, nothing fit together. Then someone standardized shipping containers and everything became a breeze. Same shape, same size. You move them from the ship to the truck to the train without touching anything that's inside. No worries needed. And that's exactly what Docker tries to do for applications. Instead of fighting operating systems, dependencies, different version, you package your entire application into a container and you put it everywhere you want. And that container runs the same way everywhere it goes. So now the question is, what are the pieces that makes this work? And there are only three main concepts that you need to know from the start: image, container, and the registry. An image is like a blueprint. It's a snapshot of everything your application needs. At a high level, an image defines which base system to start from, like a Debian for example, which packages to install like Nginx or curl, which files to copy into the container when it actually is created, which directory to work inside the container, and which command to run when the container actually starts. All of that lives inside the image, and a container is a running instance of that image. It's essentially an image brought to life, if you like. And you can create as many containers from this image as you like. Sky's the limit, basically. And you can think of it this way. An image is like a cookie cutter, and the container is like a cookie. And finally, the registry. A registry is where the images live. Docker Hub, for example, is the most popular registry. Think of it like a GitHub for images, basically. Thousands, potentially, of pre-built images ready for you to use. But enough talking, let's actually do something. I'll be using Mac OS for this example, but you can use whatever system you like. The commands are pretty much the same. And if you don't have Docker installed yet, please do check the description. I will be linking an actual guide of how to do that on your system. To make sure your Docker installation is actually working, open your terminal and run something like this. Docker -- version. Hit enter, and if you see a version number, you're good, basically. And this is the moment we've all been waiting for. You see, Docker ships with a special image called Hello World. Its only job is to prove your setup actually works. To run it, you type this in your terminal. Docker run hello-world. And behind the scenes, Docker checks if the image exists locally, downloads it if it doesn't exist, creates a container, runs the container, prints a message that you actually see on the image right now, and exits. If you see that exact message, congratulations, you just run your very first Docker container. And now pause the video and actually do that yourself, because you see Docker won't work if you don't type those commands in your terminal. So let's inspect what just happened, okay? To see running containers, we run docker ps in your terminal. And you won't see a hello world container here because it already stopped. To see everything, including stopped containers, you run docker ps-a. And here you'll see your hello world container listed with a status like exited. Now let's look at your images. To do that, we type docker images. Hit enter. There it is. Images are templates. Containers are running instances of those templates. Hello world is a nice thing, right? You can do it, you can pretty much run it without any problems. But let's do something real, something really fun, right? I promised you at the beginning of this video that we'll run a very real web server with just one command, and let's do that right now. To do that, type this: docker run -d -p 8080:80 Nginx, because this is a web server that we're going to run. And here's what that means. Docker run is a command that you used before, and it creates and starts a container. -d option allows you to detach from the container and run it in the background. -p option and 8080:80 allows you to map the port 8080 on your machine to the port 80 on your container. And finally, Nginx. And this is a web server that we're going to run. It's the image that you're going to use. And, well, essentially, it's available for you on the Docker app. So it downloads it from the internet to run on your machine. Now, open your browser and go to localhost on port 8080. And if you see the Nginx welcome page, that's a real web server running in a container on your machine. No installs, no config files, just one command, like I promised you, and that, my friend, is how you run containers using Docker. The last thing that we have to do is to clean up. So, to find the container ID, you can use docker ps, hit enter, then to stop the container, we do docker stop, and you enter the ID of the container that you run. Now, when we stop the container, let's remove it from our computer. So to do that, we do docker rm, and you paste again the ID of the container that you have. So don't be afraid to delete containers. That's just a container. You can spawn it again using the image like I said previously. So let's do a quick recap. You've learned why Docker exists, what problem does it solve, what images, containers, and registry are, how to run a container, and how to stop it and remove it from your machine. And that, my friend, is your foundation. In the next episode, we go bigger. We are going to build a fully production-ready setup, front-end, back-end, and database on your machine using the Docker Compose. One file, one command, an entire system. Thank you very much for watching, and see you in the next one.